What's up, everybody? This is a tribute to the one, the only Ozzy Osbourne. I tried going live last time around, but signal was a little shit. Yeah, 1 week later, Ozzy Osbourne, the Almighty. Just some fleeting thoughts of what comes to mind when I think of the Prince of now eternal darkness, and thought I would share that with you. And this is kind of like a little bit of a diary of a madman, for lack of a better term, that I could just kind of come back to. One thing that I thought was crazy was Lemmy Kilmister of Motorhead. He died 17 days after his final show. And I saw that last tour in LA at the Shrine Auditorium in USC. And he was up there, basically till his last breath. I mean, he died with his boots on. Ozzy Osbourne had the Back to the Beginning live stream, died 17 days later as well, which kind of gives me the chills thinking about that. But, growing up, going to hockey games and football games and sports games, you hear Crazy Train, you hear Bark at the Moon and some of these really popular songs. I don't know. But it really was Grand Theft Auto Vice City. You remember that when it came out in 2002? That was on the PS2, and they had Bark at the Moon on that, and it was based out of the 80s, and that's the Jake E. Lee opener, 1984, Bark at the Moon, and that's always been one of my favorite Ozzy records or Ozzy songs, and records. But when you abduct someone in a taxi cab and you just drive on the sidewalk. It's just really, really funny. It was Bark of the Moon playing. It was a V-Rock 80s kind of station that played Twisted Sister and other rock songs from the 80s. So that was '02. And then it was right around '03, '04 that I started to really dive into Ozzy and Black Sabbath as we know it. I saw Metallica at the Summer Sanitarium in Toronto in July of '03. So that was what started it all for me. Linkin Park was my gateway. Linkin Park was my gateway into the style of music. And when I went up to the Sky Dome in Toronto, I was there for Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit and Deftones and Mudvayne. But then there was this band Metallica. And I remember it was beyond any playoff game I've ever attended in my life, as far as the communal kind of fists up in the air and at the same time and yelling at the same time. What is this? What is this world? Ozzy in Black Sabbath, he started that shit. So we are all in debt. I'm just one of the many millions and millions and millions of people that are just into the style of music, this freeing kind of style, and it's a lifestyle, isn't it? But it was LimeWire and FrostWire, and in my brother's bedroom, looking up metal stuff and coming across some of the imagery of some of these records, like Diary of a Madman, and just the titles and everything. I just fell into it, and there's that song Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath off the debut record that featured this crazy person on the front. And just hearing the rain, and it was just unlike anything I've ever heard in my life. And I've always been drawn to horror movies and stuff like that. So it was that. And then, what is this that stands before me? And just the lyrics, they really painted a picture of that song and that style of music. So Randy Rhoads, then, with the Ozzy records, that was a guy I learned way too later on that he only was around for those first two records. That was the Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman, and then the tribute record that came out in '87. So that was '03, '04, and the iPod came out, the advent of the iPod, and away with the Sony Walkman and everything. And now I was still buying CDs, and I still buy CDs. So that Black Rain record came out when I was in college in '07, and that I've always loved that one. The title track of Black Rain, I remember when that came out, That was Zach's final one with Ozzy until Gus G came back on Scream. But Ozzy mentioned that, check out the title track, Black Rain, for you Black Sabbath lovers. I think you'd like that a lot. And I did. And there's the song, the Almighty Dollar, the Almighty Dollar. I used to put that on the jukebox at, going out and getting beers with friends. But gets me through. It was 03, the Down to Earth with Rob Trujillo on that. I was in college, and the Gets Me Through video was really cool. The Dreamer, when I was lovesick and I'd put on Dreamer, the music video, all somber and shit. But not sure if you knew this anyway, but Scream, that song Scream off his Scream record, that was his first Billboard 200 #1. He never had a #1 before that until Scream. But back to the beginning, live stream. I'll get to this. This is exactly what I was sipping, watching the back to the beginning, the bands that appeared there: Mastodon, Tool, my boys in Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Alice in Chains, Ozzy playing his final set there. This is the 2018 No More Tours, Volume 2, Syracuse. Good shit. The Ultimate Sin, I got shot in the dark that night, and that was so fucking cool. But after I found out the passing of Ozzy, the first song that came to mind was Ordinary Man, and how he really did not die an ordinary man. My wife and I, our first date was Elton John. So Elton John on that song, Ordinary Man. Check the link below to the video. It was, I haven't cried. I know a lot of people, acknowledge that they were in tears and stuff, but I definitely choked up watching Ordinary Man. And that guy, John Osborne. But that night it's tough. I'm 37, getting some friends together to go hang out. It could be a tough time with kids and everything like that. But, we have a Met Mafia here in Buffalo, New York. There's Nick Adams, Adam Garofalo, Charlie Meister, Dewey, and myself, 5 Metallica metalheads. And it was very quick, very easy, very seamless to get together the night Ozzy passed 1 week ago tonight and grab some wings. We went to Wing Nuts, but they got rid of their jukebox, so fuck that. We went to we were going to go to Elmo's, but then we ended up at Blue Bull Tavern, University of Buffalo bar, and just put on all sorts of Ozzy and Black Sabbath, and had fingers and fries and wings, and we had pictures of IPA. Cheers to the Prince of Eternal Motherfucking Darkness. But yeah, I've seen Ozzy live 4 times, and that started at the Metallica's Fillmore 30th anniversary shows. That was night 4. Geezer Butler came out and played Sabracadabra with the band. Just down front, just like, oh my God. And my twin brother and I were there the whole week, front and center. I had hair down to my shoulders. And then on the stage came Ozzy after Geezer played Sabracadabra off the Garage Inc. record. And Ozzy came out, and I remember, of course, he was standing and clapping and, doing the thing. And he played Paranoid and Iron Man. And to be that close to him was the coolest thing ever. I ended up getting James's wristband that night. Mustaine was on stage, and, Ozzy and Geezer and a bunch of other guests. And my twin brother got James Hetfield's left wristband, some of our most prized possessions right there. But then it was really my first time in Las Vegas for a bachelor party in 2014. That was April 25th of 2014. Sabbath played the Hollywood Bowl. So I drove through the Mojave Desert, and I right to the Hollywood Bowl. And I was living in San Diego at the time, and this is my parking pass from that very day. One of the greatest concerts I've ever been to in my life. And the old school, paper ticket here, Black Sabbath at the Hollywood Bowl. I was completely by myself. I knew every song that he played there, or that they played there, besides "Every Day Comes and Goes." "Under the Sun," the last track of Volume 4 record, which is now my favorite Black Sabbath record. And that song, and shout out to Geezer Butler's lyrics. Those lyrics that Geezer wrote over the years of Black Sabbath don't get enough credit. Um, Beautiful, empowering lyrics. But I want to show you this poster here. This poster is one of my most valuable posters. I'm very embarrassed. It's not framed yet. I will be framing this within the next month. Promise you that. So this poster was, this is before the poster craze at concerts. I showed up to the show late, and this was the Hollywood Bowl poster signed by Geezer and Tony, and then Ozzy right here. So this was back at the Bowl, April of 2014. This is such a badass fucking poster. So I'll be framing that with like a purple mat or something. I wanted to share that with you. So yeah, then along came my first Ozzy show was in Syracuse at the No More Tours, and getting No More Tears live was really special. Stone Sour opened. I was with my buddies who I jammed with in San Diego. They live here in the Northeast. Luke Easterday and Matt Leader, my homies, went and saw Ozzy Osbourne. And like I said, they played Shot in the Dark, and they played the No More Tears, which, the dun, 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 dun. If you've never seen Ozzy before, that song live was fucking incredible. It was so good. But I saw Sabbath, that's right, in 2016 at the Ozfest Not Fest. And that was I never went to any of the Ozfests, so that was awesome to be in San Bernardino, California. And the dust is, you got Hatebreed over there, you got, Devil Driver over there. Shout out to drummer Austin Diamond, previous episode on I Ask No One. That was a killer night. Keith Good was there, bumped into some other friends. I had a Slayer played, Opeth played. I had a Team Satan Deicide shirt on. I remember that. Those few days were amazing. That was Black Sabbath's final performance in California. And I remember I was stage right, front row. And the last person Geezer made eye contact with when he left the stage was like me. It was right there. And saw the sweat, and, amazing. But then the other day, I'm in between calls, showing homes, and on the I-90 South, I see a billboard. Maybe you've seen this billboard, maybe you haven't, but it says home. But it said home in this font, and the O was the O home, and it said 1948 to 2025. I'm like, damn, that's an Ozzy billboard here in Buffalo, New York. It would have been unsafe to get my camera out to go take a picture at that point. But I always told my dad, as much of a fan of Ozzy was of the Beatles, when Ozzy passes away, it's going to be like John Lennon level. And 1 week later, all these news outlets talking about Ozzy, and, I'm thinking about, it's brought up on ESPN, and even back in 2010, they had the Ozzy songs playing during some of those sports promos. Such an impact, and he really truly had a love affair for us fans. One of the members of the Met Mafia here brought that up in our text thread. That someone in an interview mentioned how he had a love affair with us, and I felt it, and I know you did too. So just want to salute to Ozzy. I think that's all I have for right now. I thank you for taking the time to watch, subscribe, or like. Even a subscribe, I'll donate to the Suicide Prevention Coalition of Erie County and Crisis Services here in Buffalo, New York. This one goes out to Ozzy. I got a blackened Ride the Lightning. It's 1:24 p.m. But salute to you, Ozzy, Prince of Motherfucking Darkness. Cheers. Love you, Oz.